Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Modern Farming Podcast.
We're Chris and Tara, and together we're growing knowledge about the world that feeds us.
That's right, Tara, and today we have another educational, a teacher guest, and she is the director of Aqua-sciences program at Riverview High School. Katrin, nice to meet you, and welcome to the show.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me.
Can you start by telling us just a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into aquascience?
I think it all started when my dad actually took me on a road trip with my mom over on the West Coast. We ended up in Monterey Bay. He had a research conference that he was going to, and I was about 12 years old. And all I remember is being at the beach, playing in the tide pools, wading around, picking up starfish, looking at the little fish, anemones. I just was completely hooked right from age 12. And then when I was older and had my own kids, I was excited to go back there and show my kids. And unfortunately, all those tide pools are no longer around. You have to go to an aquarium to see all those animals that are in there. So I have a pretty strong feeling for environmental stewardship. I ended up going to University of Maryland, bachelor's first, then my master's degree in marine biology. I ended up in a teaching position. I had two other careers that were along the lines of environmental science and marine related after getting my master's degree. And then, I worked kind of in the Chesapeake Bay area for a while. Moved down here after spending many, many spring breaks. My ex-husband was a teacher, and we'd come down here with our kids and loved Siesta Key. And we kind of realized our dream by coming here and living here. So I've been here since 2001, ended up as a teacher, and absolutely fell in love with teaching marine science. So I've always been someone that I learn best by doing things. And as a teacher, that's really what kind of guides me in terms of doing activities with the students. How can I best approach this so that they learn something? In 2004, I actually started teaching at Riverview, and I was excited because now I was finally teaching marine science. And there were only two sections of it. There were about 40 students taking the class. They needed a science credit. They weren't really excited about science, so it was a little bit challenging, but I just kept giving them new experiences and experiments to do and hands-on things that we were doing, and it really took off. We added honors marine science. Enrollment doubled and tripled in the marine sciences. So at that point, I was teaching full-time, 30 students per class. The whole day was marine biology. My principal, Linda Nook, noticed that the kids were really engaged, had an opportunity to build reef balls. It's an artificial habitat for fish to swim through and also coral to attach and grow. So in Sarasota, we have the Reef Ball Foundation. I met a couple of people that helped me write a grant. Through the grant, bought the reef ball molds. And we actually started building reef balls. They really enjoyed the process and the experience. And then the fact that they're going to be put out into the environment and actually help fish and create habitat was really, really exciting for the students. Ended up putting 40 reef balls out in Silvertooth Reef. This led to the principal asked me, do you think that you have a way to create a career pathway at our school that engages kids in marine science? Is there a career pathway that we can start building? And we decided to call it the Cousteau Academy. Effa Boet, who's the executive internship director, was really the person that pushed me a little bit further than I thought I was comfortable doing. We actually ended up visiting Hillsborough Community College. I already had connections with MOTE Marine Laboratory, so we kind of strengthened our bond with the MOTE Aquaculture Park. As we explored, we found out that more fish fly out of Tampa International than people. And so that got us really excited. We applied for a grant. One was the Florida Department of Agriculture. They were very excited about us engaging students in learning about aquaculture. We got the grant. And then in 2011, we actually built the Aquadome and had raised enough funding. The last large grant that we got was through State Farm. We had students actually write the grant. So the youth advisory board loved what the students were excited about. And I think it was about $125,000 grant. So that was the last kind of piece of the puzzle that we put together. So that's kind of how the Aquadome started. I remember walking on the beach one day with my husband, and we were talking about this opportunity that Linda Nook had presented me with, that I could start this program. And I said, my real wish is to have a larger facility. My classroom just isn't big enough. And I would love a larger facility where we could really grow fish. So all these ideas kind of came together with the advisory board, with the other teachers in the PLC, kind of dreamt about doing things a little bit differently and something really unique. Riverview also has a planetarium. I don't know how many high schools have a planetarium, but I can probably count on my hand. There was a program called Stars to Starfish. The former planetarium director, Mike Mockerman, and Jan Davis had put together. And so we took that old original planetarium show, and there was a group of teachers, including his son, Jason Mockerman, who helped put this together. Jan Davis was the art teacher for 40 years at Riverview and did phenomenal underwater photography. That was her hobby. And so we took her pictures and put together the planetarium show that is now being shown all around possibly the world, wherever there's a planetarium. It's one you can purchase. So that show is called Stars to Starfish. So stars, right? The planetarium, the stars, and then the starfish, obviously, in the Aquadome. As we developed our plans, we also said, well, how do we incorporate students in this? And we created a class with student interns who have to first take marine honors. Then they have to take IB Marine, which is a college level marine biology course with a written exam at the end. They have to pass that. And then they can be a Stars to Starfish intern. So they come down. We have a planetarium show. So they become like intern docents that take the students out. It's a little bit like a Disney show, like they are in charge of their learning stations at the Aquadome. The students that are visiting are generally 1st through 3rd grade. Every 2.5 to 3 minutes, we ring a bell, and that's how they know how to rotate. In 2014, I actually became Teacher of the Year after building this program. First, the high school. Then I was Teacher of the Year for the county, Sarasota County. And I actually went all the way to the state Final 5. And I was sort of the runner-up for the Final 5. And then I found out that you are no longer in your teaching job when you win. You actually have to go around the state of Florida and give presentations everywhere. So I was a little bit relieved that I didn't want to leave my kids and my Aquadome and my students. And so it worked out perfectly. But it was such an honor to get to that level. So that's the bell. We started using the bell that I got for Teacher of the Year. So the students have many responsibilities. They have to care for their fish. They learn water quality, aquaculture, and some of the maintenance requirements. They take really good care of them. And they'll come to me and say, Miss Rudge, look, this fish is acting different than it did yesterday. And so they really become little veterinarians, little environmental stewards.
I know you have other things other than just fish in your classrooms, and I know that you're doing saltwater and freshwater, and I'm wondering, moving forward, how you implemented that into the classroom and what you're teaching with those systems.
In the Aquadome, I'll just take you through like the different stations. We have a shark tank, and our shark tank has white bamboo cat sharks. They're about 2.5 to 3 feet long. And we have epaulette sharks. So that's a very exciting station for the kids. They get to feed Bob, who's a flamingo tang. He's pretty big, like about this size. And he'll come up and spit water at you, and he'll eat right out of your hand, which is really cute. Next is our mangrove tank. Red mangroves are the specific species that we have. So we talk about how important that is for holding the soil, and during hurricane season, they're natural barriers for protecting the shoreline so you don't get as much erosion. Station 3 is the coral reef tank. And that one's probably one of the most challenging to maintain in an outdoor greenhouse. We have no real climate control. So we have to add chillers. We have to add heaters in the winter. That's probably one of our more expensive tanks. After writing the grants, I had dreamt of all these different tank systems that I wanted, and there was no way to really budget that correctly. So I started calling individual companies and saying, we're doing this program. I'd like to stretch the grant money as far as possible. Would you offer us anything wholesale or educational discount? And some of them even donated. I think I saved us $40,000 when I added it all up. We were able to build all the systems we wanted. Next, we have our live food in order to grow clownfish. We have very small food called a rotifer, which eats algae. So that's the primary consumer. And that's being eaten by the brine shrimp. And then the brine shrimp is being eaten by the mysids. And then that all gets eaten by the larval fish. So it's quite a process. You can definitely learn about food webs just with that little lesson. One of our last stations are the snook. Over the year, the students take care of them. And then at the end, we tag them. The students interact with the scientists. The students weigh them, measure them, and then record that data. And then the MOTE scientists insert a little tag when they go over the monitoring station, pings their number. That allows them to track where the snook are going in Philippi Creek. And then we have a very happy day where we release them in the creek. That's a very, very exciting day. We usually have some press that comes and films the students getting to release them.
And what an amazing project to be a part of. But then you've also got the technology added in and interfacing with real scientists and learning that procedure. So that's amazing.
Right. Thank you. Yes, it's really an opportunity for the kids. We do a lot of field trips as well. We're planning on going to MOTE Marine Laboratory thanks to Green Gene Foundation. We got a grant. So I told the students we're going to cover their cost for admission. Green Gene Foundation has really helped us. We were given 2 aquaponics systems that are in the back of my classroom and my fellow co-teacher. So in my system, I actually ended up getting a donation of about 100 little tiny baby clownfish. They come up to the top and, 100 of them trying to get the food. The students just love feeding them. They're just very, very cute and interactive. And then we're going to be growing mangroves and purslane, which is a salt-tolerant plant. And then over in Mr. Wasserman's side, his will be freshwater. We have snook from MOTE Marine Laboratory. They were donated to us, and we're going to be growing tomatoes. So we're very, very thankful and very excited about that as well.
So when you do lessons, do you do the difference between saltwater and freshwater in the lessons?
Absolutely, yeah. We're mainly focused on the marine system, but obviously creeks and rivers and streams all lead to the estuary, and then that leads to the ocean. So it's all connected. So we do talk about watersheds, how animals are adapted to going from freshwater to saltwater, physiological changes that go on.
Can you tell me about how your aqua-science has changed children? What do you see?
I have 8 to 10 students in my classes that were the 3rd graders now because it's been around since 2011. And that's just such an amazing feeling, knowing that at such an early age, inspired by the high schoolers. And I always tell the 3rd graders, do well in school, and then someday you can come, help be a teacher here in the Aquadome, a student intern. And they get all excited about that. I have had students go on to go into teaching, and I've had several PhD students. They're almost done with their research. I wish I knew more about where they go. You lose touch a little bit once they leave high school, but I hear from their siblings sometimes, and it really surprises me. I'm like, I didn't know they were interested in marine science, and they're at Eckerd getting their degree, and they're going on research cruises, and it's very exciting for me to hear that. As far as students in the program, they have to really work hard to earn their spot in Stars to Starfish. And it's a little bit of a competitive spot because we have so many people wanting to be part of that. It's been a great experience for all around, including me. The structure itself is an outdoor greenhouse. Generally, they last between 12 and maybe 13 years. It is definitely showing its wear and tear. And I'm hoping to, before I retire, build a real building. And I've been requesting and talking to the superintendent and people on the school board to hopefully build a 2-story building that has, first of all, climate control. So bottom layer would be the Aquadome. It would be all the teaching stations, and that, we would make it even bigger and better. And then the top floor would be 5 or 6 classrooms that would not only alleviate, like, we're over capacity at this point at Riverview, so it would also alleviate some of the science classes going to another facility outdoors. And we'd make our own little pod, like our marine science wing at Riverview, because that would really help. Taking schools and making them smaller and more connected is really helpful to these high schoolers. You walk into a school with 2,700 kids and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm completely overwhelmed. So taking that into their interest areas, that would be a home that means a lot to them. Right now, the plan is in 2029 to build the building, which is a little far off. The last hurricane almost took it out. A real building is a very important thing, in my opinion, for longevity. And I'm hoping that we get some funding to be able to do that sooner rather than later. Yeah,
absolutely. And get those kids the hands-on learning that they need.
Katrin, so if you want to end with a final word, I'm sure you've been thinking about it for the listeners. What would that be?
I guess from my own experience, it doesn't hurt to dream. Just never give up. You want to continue to pursue what you're passionate about. Your dreams come true. And that's how I feel as a teacher. And every day I appreciate being able to have this opportunity to be able to see my students in action. I appreciate partners like Green Gene Foundation helping us to build systems and to continue that flourishing environment where our students can really go to the next level. So thank you for that. And thank you for having me on your show today.
That's what it's all about. And thank you to those who are watching today. That's about all the time we have.
Thanks for listening to Modern Farming. Be sure to follow and share, and join us again as we grow knowledge about the world that feeds us.